On Thanksgiving dinner, her mom pulled me aside and said, "You deserve better." That night, I followed my wife to her yoga class. I didn't say a word, just filmed everything. She didn't know I sent it to her parents until they stopped speaking to her. Hi, I'm Julian, 35, software engineer, husband, and until a few months ago, a man who believed loyalty could fix anything, even if it shattered me in the process. Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday. Food, football, just enough family drama to keep things interesting, but not destructive. That was before everything changed. This past Thanksgiving, I saw everything I believed about love and trust fall apart like a house of cards in slow motion. It started quietly, like a whisper under the clink of dishes and burst of laughter. But by the end of the night, my entire world had shifted, and I had proof. We were at my wife Lauren's parents' house. A cozy colonial tucked into the hills of Vermont, warm light spilling from the windows, the smell of rosemary turkey threading through the air. We'd been married 5 years, together for 7. No kids yet, but we were trying. Or at least, I thought we were. Lauren was radiant as always, effortlessly charming, golden hair tied back with a velvet ribbon, passing around bowls of stuffing like the star of a Hallmark movie. Her mother adored her. Her father less so, but I chalked it up to the usual stoicism. Her parents were wealthy, old money quiet and polished, tasteful marble, inherited china, champagne that didn't need a label. She grew up never needing anything. I came from far more humble roots. But thanks to my work and a few well-placed investments, I built something solid. My startup had been acquired the year before we got married, and I was doing well. Really well. Custom vacations. A new Audi she didn't even have to ask for. Jewelry, just because. Lauren wore wealth like second skin. And I was more than happy to keep giving, because it meant she was happy. Or so I thought. That night, after most of the guests had settled into pie and port, Lauren's mother pulled me aside. We were in the kitchen. The warmest room in the house, the smell of cloves and butter thick in the air. I was rinsing glasses when she touched my arm and said, "Julian, sweetheart, you deserve better." I froze. I remember the way the water kept running, trickling down the stem of a crystal flute, the soft clink as it knocked against the sink. "I'm sorry," I said. Her eyes were kind, but tired. "I love Lauren. You know that. But she's not as committed to things as you are. And lately, she's been different. She leaves for these yoga retreats every Thursday, and I've stopped pretending I believe that's where she's going." I didn't say anything, just nodded, slowly. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out the air. She gave my arm a squeeze. "Just keep your eyes open. You're a good man. Too good to be lied to." That night, after everyone left and Lauren kissed my cheek with that practiced, honeyed smile, I said I had a late-night call with the London office. She kissed me again, told me not to wait up, and left, yoga mat slung over her shoulder, keys jingling like wind chimes. But this time, I followed her. Not recklessly. Quietly. Distant headlights. No music. I knew every route out of our neighborhood like the back of my hand. I watched her take the west exit, not the direction of the studio she always mentioned. I knew it well. I dropped her off there more than once, brought her post-class smoothies like a doting fool. Instead, she turned down a side street, into a quiet, upper-middle-class neighborhood, pulled into a driveway. The lights flicked on inside a small brick house, curtains drawn. I parked 2 houses down, heart pounding so loud I thought it might give me away. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Then the front door opened, and there he was. Tall, fit, dark-haired with that casual stubble. The type who wears confidence like cologne. He greeted her with a kiss. Not on the cheek. Not tentative. A kiss that had history behind it. She kissed him back. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years. A real smile. One that didn't belong to me anymore. I didn't cry. Not then. My hand shook as I took out my phone and hit record. It wasn't cinematic. No shouting. No music. Just quiet betrayal captured in 1080p, her car in his driveway, her silhouette in his window, the faint glow of lies humming behind curtains. I sent the footage anonymously. No message. Just the file, emailed to her parents using an address I'd seen on a family Christmas card once, years ago. She didn't know I had. Not until Sunday afternoon. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard her sobbing in the kitchen. Loud, broken. Her voice trembled through the drywall. "They're not speaking to me. My parents, they know, Julian." "How do they know?" I didn't move. I just listened. She came to me later that night, mascara streaked, lips trembling. "Did you tell them?" she whispered. I looked at her for a long moment. No. I showed them. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You filmed me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She collapsed onto the couch, muttering things I couldn't bring myself to care about. I stood there, watching the woman I once imagined growing old with unravel. And all I could think was, I gave you everything. I wasn't just a good husband. I was an exceptional one. Thoughtful gifts. Surprise getaways. A house with her dream kitchen and garden tub. I funded her boutique skincare startup when no banquet. I stood by her during every family squabble, every little crisis. And she used me like an ATM with arms. That was the first night I didn't sleep next to her. I took the guest room, locked the door, and lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was crying because she'd been caught, or because she finally realized what she'd lost. Because the truth? After the betrayal, she had nothing. Her affair partner didn't know I'd recorded everything. Her parents did, and they froze her out completely. And me? I froze the credit cards, moved accounts, changed the locks on the second property she loved to escape to. She went from luxury to limbo overnight. And I wasn't done. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the guest room, laptop open, replaying the video frame by frame. Every second of her smile, his waiting arms, the way the porch light flickered like it was trying to warn me before the door closed. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. Just a cold, calculated silence blooming in my chest. By morning, I had already contacted a lawyer, not for divorce yet, but for options. Because the man who bought her pearls, paid for her spa getaways, her boutique skincare brand, and every business retreat, she disappeared to once a month. That man was done being a footnote in his own life. At breakfast, she acted like nothing had happened. Wore one of the silk robes I'd given her last Christmas. Made herself a smoothie in the Vita mix I bought when she said her old one felt cheap. She hummed as she scrolled through her phone like she hadn't detonated our marriage 48 hours earlier. She caught me staring and raised an eyebrow. What? Nothing, I said. She smiled tight, suspicious. Then went back to tapping her screen. Probably texting him. I let her pretend. That afternoon, she left for an appointment downtown. The same time she usually vanished on Thursdays. Like clockwork. I waited 20 minutes. Then followed. Different car this time. A gray rental I didn't recognize, probably to avoid detection. But she made the same turn. The same street. The same damn driveway. Only this time, I parked closer. Less careful now. Less afraid. I watched her walk up the front steps without looking over her shoulder. Watched the door open from the inside. This time, he pulled her in before she could even knock. Her coat hit the floor before the door was fully shut. And this time, I got out of the car. I stayed across the street, behind a half-dead tree, phone in hand. Zoomed in. Recorded every window. Every flicker of movement. Her silhouette pacing in the front room, gesturing with one hand, drink in the other. His arm around her waist. Then curtains pulled shut. But not all of them. The upstairs light stayed on. And through the narrow opening of a forgotten blind, I could see just enough. Not everything. Just enough. Enough to know she was laughing. Enough to see her sit on the edge of the bed, shoes kicked off, glass in hand like this was home. My breath caught. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. That hurt more than anything. I left before they noticed. Before I did something that couldn't be undone. I drove until the mountains blurred in the distance. Until the ache behind my eyes gave way to something sharper clarity. By the time I pulled into my office garage, I'd already backed up the footage. 2 copies. One physical. One digital. I stored them under an innocuous folder labeled Q4 Financial Review. You don't get to ruin my life and walk away with everything. That weekend, I started pulling financial records. I froze every shared card. Removed her from my business accounts. Changed the passwords to the rental properties under my name. One of them, the lake house, had been her getaway. She always called it her reset spot. I reset the locks. She didn't notice at first, but the cracks began to show. She tried to book a weekend trip and got denied. Texted me in a frenzy, "Did the card get hacked?" I replied, "No, just cleaned." Then came the anger. The passive-aggressive silences. The icy dinners. The forced smiles when friends dropped by. We were unraveling, and only one of us knew how fast. The turning point came 2 weeks later. Her parents invited us over again. Some fundraising gala her father insisted on hosting. One of those sit-down dinners with too much silverware and not enough sincerity. I didn't want to go, but I did, because I had to see how much they knew. The moment we arrived, her mother barely looked at her. Her father didn't shake my hand. He hugged me. "Good to see you, Julian," he said, his voice low. "Glad you're here." The entire evening, Lauren was like glass under pressure, smiling too wide, laughing too loud. Her mother asked about our holiday plans and didn't wait for her to answer. Looked straight at me instead. "You're always welcome, of course." And that's when it hit me. They knew. But more importantly, they'd chosen a side. Not theirs. Mine. After the gala, she was silent the whole drive home. Then, halfway up the stairs, she turned and said, "What did you tell them?" I paused. "The truth." "About what?" I looked her straight in the eye. "About where you've been going every Thursday." The color drained from her face. "You had no right," she hissed. I didn't flinch. "I had every right. You used our marriage like a mask. And when it slipped, you didn't even try to fix it." She stepped back like she'd been slapped. "You sent them that video, didn't you?" "No," I said calmly. "I sent them the truth." That night, she slept in the guest room. The next morning, she was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. But here's the kicker. She had nowhere to go. Because her parents cut her off. Her father removed her from the trust fund. Her mother unfollowed her on Instagram. Petty? Yes, but brutal. The man she was seeing? Turns out he had a girlfriend. One who found the footage too. He ghosted her within a day of the fallout. And me? I filed the papers that Monday. She had betrayed the one person who stood by her through everything. And in the end, she didn't just lose me. She lost the house, the security, the family name she'd married into. Everything. The divorce was clean, uncontested, almost suspiciously quiet on her end. I think she thought I'd take her back again. That I'd crack like before, like when she ghosted me for 2 days during our second year of marriage and came home smelling like hotel soap and excuses. I forgave her then, because love is supposed to be work, right? But this time, there were no more working through it speeches. No more therapy appointments she didn't show up to. No more pretending. She signed the papers without protest. No claim to the house. No fight for the business. Just a terse, typed line from her lawyer. Client requests to expedite proceedings to avoid media attention. Translation: her parents were embarrassed. And when people like them feel shame, they get surgical with their distance. The woman who once grew up eating caviar at ski resorts now lived in a one-bedroom sublet with beige carpet and paper-thin walls. I knew because I saw the Venmo notification once, $900 rent upside-down face, to someone named Jess. Probably a friend with a couch. Probably temporary. Funny thing is, she'd mocked my frugality once. Called me quaint for driving my first car until the engine died, for doing my own taxes, for buying generic cereal when no one was looking. But now, I was the one who still had his life, and she was the one borrowing spoons. I didn't gloat. Not once. Not even when mutual friends texted me screenshots of her Instagram bio change, healing, growing, imperfect, dizzied. Not even when she posted cryptic captions about losing everything to find yourself. I just moved on. But not before one last conversation. It was a month after the divorce finalized. I was sitting in the back patio of my favorite cafe, headphones in, reading a book I hadn't touched in 3 years. The sun was warm, the kind that melts winter off your skin. I felt normal again. Or at least, like I was headed there. And then she called. I let it ring. Watched her name blink across the screen. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then voicemail. 2 minutes later, a text. Please. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. 1. That's it. We met the next afternoon in a neutral spot. Public, quiet, no ghosts. She wore sunglasses too big for her face and sat with her arms crossed like the wind might steal her. I waited. She took off the glasses and finally said, "You didn't even yell." Not once. I tilted my head. Did you want me to? I don't know. Her voice cracked. Maybe it would have made me feel less like I imagined it all. I stayed silent. She swallowed. You were good to me. I nodded. I didn't know how to handle that. I wasn't asking you to handle it. Just not destroy it. Tears welled in her eyes, and for a second, I almost reached across the table. Almost. But the memory of that night, the wine glass, the kiss, the way she smiled for someone else, kept my hands still. Julian, she said, voice shaking. I don't have anyone left. Her words landed like a pebble in a well, echoing, distant, and deeper than she probably realized. I know, I said softly. I thought, maybe I could stay with you. just until I get back on my feet. I looked her in the eyes, the woman I had once loved more than anything, and I said the words that finally set me free. No, not out of cruelty, out of peace. I'm not your backup plan, I said. You had a home, a partner, a future. You left it for something that didn't last 3 months. I made a mistake. I stood up slowly, grabbing my coat. Yeah, I said. And now, you live in it. I walked away without turning back. That night, I opened every window in my house, lit a candle in every room, played a record I hadn't touched since college. I danced with my dog, cooked a steak, drank a glass of red so smooth it almost made me believe in healing. And somewhere around midnight, I opened a new folder on my computer. I called it Life 2.0. Inside, I made a list. A real one. Not the kind you make when you're sad and promising to change. The kind you make when you're calm. Ready. Travel again. Not to impress anyone. Just for me. Fix the leak in the garden faucet. Try pottery. Why not? Learn to make homemade pasta. Find someone who makes me laugh at stupid memes. Let go of the version of myself that needed her approval. The next morning, I went for a run. Signed up for a community cooking class. Smiled at the cashier in the bookstore who had a tattoo of a koi fish on her wrist and eyes that saw people like they meant something. By the end of the week, I donated every gift I'd ever given Lauren that she left behind. Designer coats, handbags, a gold watch I found under the bathroom sink. Gone. She'd walked away from a life most people dream about, because she thought the grass was greener. And when she found out it was spray-painted turf, I was already miles ahead. There's something cold but clean about silence, especially when it's the sound left behind after you finally close a door someone assumed would always be open. 2 months passed. It was spring by then. The kind that sneaks up on you. Birds louder than your alarm, flowers blooming in places you forgot you planted. Life was starting to feel like mine again. I was waking up earlier, sleeping deeper, smiling without rehearsing at first. And then came the email. No subject line. Just a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Lauren's father. I opened it expecting a simple check-in or maybe a belated apology. Instead, I found this. Julian. I wanted to reach out privately. Lauren hasn't been doing well. She refuses to talk to us. She lost her job. We tried to help, but she's distant. I know this isn't your problem anymore, and I respect that. But I wanted to thank you again. Not just for your grace, but for showing us who she really became. You didn't just save yourself, you opened our eyes. We've spoken with our estate attorney. Lauren is no longer the primary beneficiary of the family trust. I hope this gives you peace. Robert. I read it twice. Then once more for the punctuation. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. Because that was it. The final thread. Lauren didn't just lose me, or the house, or the luxury, or the other man. She lost the lifeline she'd always believed would be there. Her parents. Their support. Their money. She had nothing left because she never learned to build anything for herself. And here's the twist she never saw coming. I had. That week, I opened the doors to my new workspace, an old brick loft I'd converted into a small consulting firm. Just 4 people to start. 2 desks, a coffee machine that cost more than my first car, and a massive whiteboard that I wrote one word on. Earned. I didn't tell many people. Not at first. I wanted it to grow quietly. Something mine. No shared bank accounts. No extra names on the lease. Just a future I didn't have to apologize for. Around the same time, I ran into someone unexpected. Sophie. She was the event coordinator at a venue I'd booked a year earlier for Lauren's birthday, back when I was still planning surprises she barely reacted to. I remembered Sophie because she made me laugh during a power outage. I didn't even think she remembered me, but she did. We talked. About work. About broken plans. About what it means to love someone who doesn't respect the effort behind your love. I asked if she wanted coffee sometime. She smiled and said, only if it's not at your old house. I laughed. That place? That was never really mine. We went for coffee. Then lunch. Then late-night drives. She didn't ask me to explain myself. She didn't flinch when I told her about the betrayal. Just said, I think some people only learn through loss. By the time summer arrived, I felt something I hadn't in years. Ease. Not butterflies. Not adrenaline. Ease. One afternoon, while cleaning out the guest room that had become my temporary escape during the unraveling, I found the envelope, the flash drive with the original recording. I stared at it for a long time. Not with anger. With gratitude. That video ruined everything. And it saved me. I walked outside and dropped it in the fire. It lit a match. Watched it curl and melt and vanish. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just peace.